Hi guys,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
Look at that. What was that look about?
What?
Hello.
Hello. I don't know. Some
He's
things in
just
my
giving a
eyebrows
look.
are moving on their own.
Okay, good. It's the way it ought to be. So, welcome to the show. Obviously, you see there are some changes happening. This below me in the chat is Joe. It's just that Joe looks different today. Also, he's a different Joe,
I
but his
shaved
name is Joe.
your hair.
New hair.
What?
That's yep. New hair. New hair. Unlike the other one, which is no hair. Not old hair, just no. Yep. So it's not no Joe. What? It's Joe, but it's not the normal Joe that you normally expect. It's still Joe though. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to have him here. It's great. Other Joe, the regular Joe on the show, is currently at a baseball game, I think, with his kids. So we've got Joe here with us to fill in for Joe to make sure that this still has a Joe to make the show run smoothly. So here we are. Thank you, Meow, for posting that. This is Don't Worry Wednesday. Welcome everybody. How are you all doing today? It's nice to see you. How are you, Joe? How have you been?
How have I been? I'm good. Things are
Yeah,
good. It's a Wednesday that I shouldn't be worrying about, so I'm gonna not worry. And
yeah,
yeah,
that's
great.
accurate. This is one of those Wednesdays you should not worry about. Across the board for every human being, that's pretty true. This
You out
Wednesday
there.
specifically. Yeah, you know who we're talking about. You
You
fool.
what?
Oh,
I mean,
don't.
yes.
I guess
What?
that's not very nice. I'm sorry about that. Um, hey,
Uh,
welcome, Jessica. It's nice to see all these people here. You guys are awesome. You guys
yeah,
are
good to see you.
in the chat, doing awesome. Doing well, great. Cookies,
Cookies. I
cookies.
love
If
cookies.
you could send some, I'd be really happy. Thank you. Peanut butter cookies are awesome. Um,
Ooh.
they are good. I've not met someone who's like, nah, I don't like peanut butter cookies. Everyone loves peanut butter cookies, unless you just don't like peanut butter. Joe, are you sneaking some? Are you sneaking?
No, I'm the one who doesn't like peanut butter cookies because I don't
Oh,
like
you're
peanut
right. You're right. Because you don't like peanut butter, right?
butter. Yep.
You're that one
Oh
crazy
no, I've
guy.
been outed immediately.
I don't know anyone that doesn't like. Oh, he doesn't like it. Well, there you go. That's funny. We have one person who
We
doesn't
only
like
have
him.
one.
That's okay. More for us, right?
So, yeah, that's fair.
I met a few who don't like peanut butter. Whatever. You know what? They're not real people, and so neither is Joe. If you see him, you're hallucinating. But we're still going to pay attention to everything he says because even if he's hallucination, he's rather wise.
I'm Joe's AI chatbot that he created. So yeah,
Whoa. Yeah, that's what he's been doing in
the
his free time.
realism.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
Wow, 3D
it's great to
printing
be
and
here.
piano arrangements. Man, you guys are doing
Wow.
crazy stuff over here. I'm over here like I had a drink of Pepsi. I'm like that was plenty. You finishing school? Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
Nice. Heading off for vacation? That sounds awesome. Enjoy August.
Mhm.
Where are you guys going? Or where are you going? I don't know if you're taking anybody with you, so where are you going?
I'm
I
staying right
guess
here.
maybe you don't have to disclose that information in case it's confidential. Um, or something you just
Just
don't want
out
to share
them right
online.
here.
I'm going to this address, and you put the address down, and everyone's like, I'm going to show up. Make your vacation
Oh
extra
man,
fun.
can you imagine? Yeah, maybe friends though. I mean,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. You guys are all awesome. Welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. This is the show where we talk about the issues, the problems on your mind. Life has all of its ups and downs, and the downs can be hard to handle at times, especially if you're going it alone. So that's why we're here to give you a little helping hand, a friendly push at times, or a friendly just dude, that sucks. you know, we aren't professional psychologists or psychiatrists or anything along those lines, but we can do our best to give you our best from our own experiences. We've all lived lives here, and we have things to share. So if you want to add your thoughts to the chat, your advice to the chat, please do. We more than welcome it. It's great and helpful. And we all have different. Not only do we all have different problems, we all might have slightly different ways we have to solve it just because our lives are different. And so anything you guys can add is going to be helpful. Um, so, yeah,
And it
thank you.
keeps us from getting stuck.
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah. And then we have something to read to make us sound smart. Yeah. Oh gosh, that would be hilarious, Vanity. That would be hilarious.
An unplanned meetup. We just do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, well, I'm gonna hit up a topic here. Um,
Yes,
we've
dude.
got stuff from all over. Let's see, Hatsu, some anonymous ones, random. Okay, so those are just more anonymous. And
August
August,
is there. Ooh, good
August,
year.
do you want us to cover yours? I know you put yours in the yours up here recently for us. I know you're heading off a vacation tomorrow, but if you're willing to stick around for, you know, a little bit of time, sure, awesome. Okay, cool,
Perfect.
perfect. Well, let's do it. So
Ha,
I'm gonna.
that goes with the topic.
What's that?
Nothing.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this topic up on the screen for you guys, in case you want to read along. Just have to remember how to do that. There we go. No wonder. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. We love the music. Thank you, Joe, for telling me that. I had pressed the wrong button that sent us to the end screen. So, or was it the starting screen? I don't know. Sorry about that. I'm gonna start this over. Appreciate you guys telling that. Okay. This topic is from August. We titled it "Natural Perfection," and it reads as follows. Thank you for dealing with me. How do you deal with wanting perfection from the natural world? How do you handle the anxiety from things inherently guaranteed to not last forever? When I play games, I feel overwhelmed by the thought that an item, a place, or an experience could run out. This feeling chases me into the real world. I just started playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild today, and it mentions an item, a gear that can be used and messed with, and yet never show any imperfections. While it doesn't affect my gameplay, that item brings me solace, but also grief that real life will never offer me such a relief. Things wear out, scratch, and run out. How am I meant to deal with it? From August. All right. Well, this.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's a really great question, and I can totally relate. There's whenever I'm playing a video game and they have like especially it's like you can make an online purchase to get an item that is guaranteed to run out after like 7 days, and you're just like, I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole, thanks. It's like. Or even when I get it's like a cosmetic item that I won in an event or something, and it's like, this cosmetic event, as soon as you use it, it will last only 1 month, and then it will disappear. You'll never have it again. I'm just like, I hate you. I'm not even opening the cosmetic event. I'm just not even gonna use it. That's the way I feel about it. So, I totally get it. Those games with that kind of content just make me angry. Angry is a bit of an extreme word, but I just like, nope, I don't care for that. I don't like it at all. Especially if it costs real money. And then that's in the real world, right? You pay real money for things like food, and then you eat it and it's gone forever. Or you buy a cleaner, you know, and then the cleaner runs out, and you're like, well, now I got to buy the cleaner again, you know, and that's just how life is. And I think part of the interesting thing is that games offer an idea of something that doesn't ever run out, and that it's like, man, I wish that was reality. But everything seems to run out after time. But anyways, so this is a great and very interesting topic. I'm excited to see what Joe might have to say about it. So without any further ado, I'm just gonna give it over to you.
Yeah, let me pull up my sleeves here because
All
I'll
right.
need to take that to answer the quick. No, thank
Yeah.
you, Ryan, and thank you, August, for this very informative question. Um, it's definitely something that we need to consider, and I think it's really good. I think it's actually good to ask the question and to have that, uh, because it feels like it's like an angst or sorrow or uh, some kind of negative emotion that we've attached to that of things are fading and are no longer there. Um, and I'm gonna speak more from my perspective, and then I'll speak on it more generally. But I think that that's meant to produce in you a longing for something that is the perfect or will last in eternity. Like I think that that's good and that's natural and that's from the Christian perspective, a very biblical concept. Like you should want that. Why wouldn't you want the things that are eternal? So I would like to present to you the idea that it's a longing, and that sorrow is like, oh, I wish for this, or that would be preferable, and that could be good. Like you don't have to think of that in the negative. So have that tucked in your back pocket as something to consider for you in terms of uh, a more dealing with the emotion of it. We can definitely go into that more in the immediate, right? Like because things do wear out, things get used up rather quickly. I have a can of Pepsi; it'll be gone inside of 2 hours, and if it's not gone, all the bubbles run out really quick. All right, and and I think it does something to tell us about how things are created, the care or the time we put into certain objects. For instance, I'm going with my Pepsi. It's because it's a Pepsi can. Once I open it, all the bubbles rush out. But if I have a bottle or something, I can close it and then keep some of that carbonation in. And that's very cool and that's very um, nice to have. And so I can keep things together longer. And I think it's one of the kind of amazing things about the human condition is that we're always striving to make things maybe last longer or be better, right? It's always a bit of an improvement. When you go out, and I hope you consider this, when the things that are more expensive or are more valuable, that's what money basically is it helps us to value things. So the things that are more valuable are the ones that last longer. They're made out of better materials or they're constructed in a way that means that they're going to last a long time. Um, Having different things that last a different amount of times helps us to add value to it, helps us to understand it. And I think that that's a good thing. Like, I think your visual of that is great. I do think it's really cool that you just bring in like a very specific game here, the Breath of the Wild, which honestly is one of the few games that does wearing out of items fairly well. Like if I remember that game right, and it has been a long time since I've played Legend of Zelda, and I think I only played that for an hour. The weapons and the shields all break after a certain amount of use, and so it's just a reminder of like, hey, it is like the reality is that things do wear down and things do break down. Um, and that's not always for the worse. If you look at, you bring up the idea of the natural world, uh, a lot of the natural world, a lot of biology. Okay, yeah, every weapon and shield breaks after a few hits. Okay, um, perfect. So, hey, you have to remember, even in games, trying to mirror life, they'll identify that. In biology, many things are in cycles, right? So we have the carbon cycle and the water cycle and all of these things where as you use something, it gets consumed, it gets used up. It's later broken down and recycled and reused again for a different purpose and maybe a better purpose. Okay, so just in terms of the natural world of things, maybe that's a great encouragement for you, or an idea to like move in the realm of I want to be a creative person. Okay, because those of us who are creative, not me, I'm too much of an accountant. I can only tell you what happened, not what to do, unfortunately. Uh, you can move. If you're a creative person, you can take what's been and say, what if I took that and made it better? What if I took the broken and said, let's do amazing things with it? Again, Christian perspective, people who are creative are modeling the creator, taking something and making something good out of it. We're just not as good at making it last forever. So I just want you to consider that. Like, hey, there are good things in the question. In dealing with it doesn't mean you're going to get an answer like, yep. Don't worry. If you want to achieve perfect Legend of Zelda weaponry and perfect, your car doesn't break down on Tuesday because you drove it too fast the last time. It's not going to happen. And you might try and try and try, but they've been making cars for hundreds of years, then they break down. We've been making buildings for thousands of years, and we're left with basically the pyramids, and that's it, right? Like there aren't even the stone structures that have been there don't last maybe more than 1,000 years, and so keep that in mind. Like it's okay. Like it when you say deal with it, it's meant to bring up these questions for you to consider, and I hope that you are considering them and kind of, hey, how do I feel about it? Is that the way I want it to be? Like you could accept it, right? There's the option of just full on, it is what it is, and that's all there is to it. Or you could contemplate it and go, why? Well, why is it that way, and what brings this about? And so I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to ask the question, and if the asking gets too hard sometimes, you can go to option number 2 and just say it is what it is. So you always have that in your back pocket. But I think it'd be great to hear what Ryan has to say. He's a great, wise person who knows. He's been around longer than me, perhaps, I think. And so he might have more.
Just a little bit.
Just like a couple days, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can give you my couple of days of expertise above Joe. No, I'm just kidding. It's not even accurate. I think you're younger than me than by a couple of years, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a couple. It's not many.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyhow, I can't remember, man.
And I'm older than Joe now.
Yeah, you are older than Joe now. That's pretty great. Congratulations, by the way. Joe's super young. Oh my gosh, that guy.
Other Joe, man.
Yeah.
Ask him. Oh, we should have left him in with this question. He understands.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll give you my best, August, and I can't guarantee I'll give you anything super helpful. I really like the direction you were taking it, Joe. When you, in the real world, when you let's say you take a sword and you strike something with it, over time, when you use the energy of the sword, right? When you hit something, energy is released, and now you've released energy into the world, right? But you took matter and you turned it into energy, which is a rather fascinating thing. And then that energy immediately was probably absorbed by other matter around it, such like heat or sound being carried and moving objects around until the energy dissipates, and now everything in the world is slightly different because of it. Not everything, but everything in the immediate area, because you made a little bit of heat and a little bit of sound, which is interesting. So you aren't actually, in reality, generally speaking, we are never really losing energy or matter in the world, but it's still true, like you said, everything seems to have a limited amount of uses until it's broken down and you have to reforge it from other materials and so on. And I get that frustration in that. I like, again, like where Joe was taking it, is try to look at the bright side. Really, that's all you can do in things, is try to find the bright side. And what is the bright side in that? And that is, well, without that mechanic in the world, we would have a lot of problems. For example, almost every creature in the world lives off of the mechanic that matter breaks down over time. Like trees break down into dirt, and dirt is then used to fertilize and redistribute nutrients to other plants and for other bugs and insects, and then ultimately for us along the way. So anyhow, we're reliant upon the issue, whether it's a joyful issue or not. It's something we rely upon. And so I think that's a interesting framework to work through mentally, because that's sort of a form of philosophy, thinking about how we're reliant on something that we would deem as an error. In the construct of the world, we would deem it an issue or an error. Like, in the perfect world, things would never break apart. In a perfect world, things would never die. Blah, 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 blah. We're reliant upon the very nature of those issues, those faults, for life in the first place, as we have it, as we can see it, as it functions. And so that's an interesting thing. We also rely upon it for all standards of economy. If humans didn't have to eat, for example, right? We eat, the sole function of that is breaking down matter into other particles for our body to be used up, and then we have to eat again, right? So that's the whole issue. If we never had to eat, we would have no basis of economy, because there's no function that's being demanded of us, or baseline. Like, no baseline of economics. The baseline of economics has always been food, because food is the thing that we all need to survive. Without food, there's not really a need for anything, right? I'm including in water in that, of course. I'm including all things that are just necessary, that get broken down for us to survive. And so we might consider economy as a bad thing, but it's kind of a cool thing. Really, it is kind of cool. I mean, how many games are better because there's an economy within the game? It could even be an action economy, as in you only get so many moves before your enemy makes a move, and so you have to figure out what kind of moves to make. That's not necessarily based on food, but the economy idea came from somewhere, and it came from our real-world experiences of economy. So it's kind of interesting that we require something like food or things that get used up. And we see it as a good, even though it feels bad. Like, that's the way I see it. So the question is, how are you going to deal with it? How do you handle the anxiety from things inherently guaranteed to not last forever? Well, I'd say 2 ways. Well, one of them comes from a saying I used to say a long time ago. If you have an issue and you want to solve it, it's like you either change the things you hate or you change the things you hate. One of those is you take the thing you hate and you change it so that it's a different thing, so you don't hate it anymore, like you fix it. The other one is you decide you don't hate it anymore. And in some cases, you can't change reality. You have to change why you dislike, or what you dislike about reality. You have to change the way you view it so that you can be satisfied with it rather than hate it. That's one option. Change it. As in, change your mind about the ordeal. The other option is to look forward to something else. And you can continue to dislike that things are used up when you use them. but be satisfied in the idea that you have something to look forward to in, let's say, the afterlife. There's a great deal of religions which propose an everlasting nature to the soul, an everlasting nature to the heavens, or whatever the afterlife might bring. And then there are, of course, other religions which everything is recycled, as in you just keep on. Well, there's two versions. One religion, you keep on living your life over and over, and in another one, you live it in a different body or a different context or different time, whatever, until you eventually reach nirvana, which I don't understand how that works, but that's fine. I don't have to. Someone knows out there if you have any questions about that. I'm not here to teach it. So anyhow, if you refuse to change the way you view it so that it can be acceptable in your brain and not be something that's at contest with you, then you at least can possibly, if you have a religion of such nature, look forward to the future and just be thankful that, hey, in the future, this won't be the case. We won't have this issue. This problem will be no longer a problem. And that's a sort of a reassuring fact, because then you're in a situation where it's like you can be at peace even though things are wrong, because one day things will be at peace. And I think that is a real answer. That is an actual answer. It sort of gets around the problems of the day and lets you recognize that, hey, my problems aren't forever. And that feels good. You can be at peace in that. So those are my two solutions for you, two routes to answering this problem. August, I'm not sure which route you would rather take, or if you decide you want to take both. But let me know your thoughts so far, if any of this has helped, if any of this helps sort of resolve the issue. If you don't have any thoughts, if this is not helping at all, that's totally acceptable, totally understandable. You said you like both of those paths. Maybe a mix of the two might be what I need for my approach. Yeah, absolutely. And so, fine. I would say the second one is kind of all up to you and your realm. But as for the first one, I would say, as for solving it, just as in changing your mind frame about it, I would suggest sort of just listening to what Joe was saying. Fixate on why the natural cycle of the world is a good thing. Why it's a blessing that things are used up to some degree. Find the joy in that. Because, like Joe said, it sort of helps you decide the value of things. And finding value is a joyful thing, right? When you value something and you achieve it, you find joy. When you anything to do with value, right, really is prime time for joy, right? I mean, you can celebrate things that are valuable. You celebrate your own life, your own existence, on your birthday. You can celebrate other people's birthdays, right? You can celebrate someone's passing of life, right? In a funeral, right? And you find the value there, right? And that might not be joyful, but it's very grievous, right? It sparks an intense feeling within you, right? And part of that feeling of recognition of value is inherent in the fact that nothing here lasts forever, right? And so that fact, the fact that nothing here lasts forever, is cause for great joy, because it helps us discern value in the world and where we should be placing our time and efforts. It helps us discover that our investments in specific things are rewarded. It shows us that the lives in the interactions that we get in our lives with people, there's a limited amount of them. Each one has its own limited time frame. Each object within it has its own time frame, and that gives us a great understanding of value And all of that's a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. Um, yes, I still feel you that it's like, well, ideally it would be cool to have a sword that never broke when I used it. It's like, yeah, I totally get it. I understand. But at the same time, in the real world's a lot more complex and a lot more beautiful than a game world. As beautiful as the world in a game can be, you have to recognize that game was created by human imagination. And that's in the real world. Those human people with those imaginations, with the hands that coded it, with the hands that did the art, etc. Those are real people, you know? And that's the real world. That's part of the real world. It's we're in it. And so it's it's something to be celebrated. The real world and the fact that the real world works the way it does, even if it's not what we would consider perfect or optimal. It is what it is, and I think that to some degree it is perfect. It is a perfect system to some degree, right? Um, in some ways, right? If you believe in, there are many different religions, would require us to have a world such as this in order for it to work in the right way, for things to happen in the right way, and for our hearts to have value and be able to find value and recognize the value in the world and in God and in such things. And in other ways, you could say the world we live in is perfect because the chances for life in general to actually exist in the first place are so astronomically low of a percentile that it's just impossible. But yet here we are. So that's kind of perfect in a way. It's just like the everything lined up perfectly to actually create life, which, by the way, for the past like I think it's like been 180 years, people have been trying to recreate life in laboratories by applying chemicals to chemicals and things like that, and they have still gotten absolutely nowhere in the field. And it's just like we have no idea. We have no idea. So it's just like the more they try it, the more they find out it doesn't work, and the more astronomically low percent chance that we should have life here. It's just like it just keeps on growing or shrinking rather. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is we should be thankful. We should be very thankful that we have any life whatsoever, that we have friends whatsoever, that we have loved ones whatsoever, that we have the capability to love in general, that we have the capability of feeling joy, right? So, yeah, I mean, to some degree, it's like, yeah, everything is limited in time, but goodness, like, there's such a miracle happening with just the fact that you are existing in this time frame and the things and the items around you are existing in your time frame for you to use at all, period, is quite the joyful thing. Anyways, that's me rambling. I'm done rambling. Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, I don't. Well, maybe one thing. Just kind of this idea that the value of certain things was assigned by like its temporariness
Yeah.
is very interesting, and I think it can help you to like recognize basically like the value of not only like monetary things, but the relationships like Ryan was talking about. It's just so important. It's so uh, helpful to remember that, and I think the finiteness of things helps you to not take that for granted, right? Like you said, there's this level of if you didn't need food or you didn't need anything, then you would just go on. You wouldn't have to do anything. Like, what would be the purpose to literally any action, right? Like, part of the reason I get up and go to work in the morning is so that I can have food for me and my family. Like, if that's not a requirement, like, I just stand here and, like, all right, well, I don't need to do anything because I don't need to eat. They don't need to eat. Like, there's a level of just creativeness and value that's created simply by the need, and the need comes from the fact that things are finite. So I think it's great. I think it's great that you're asking the question. I think
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, I think just having that idea in your head is just so. Uh, the fact that you can comprehend it even is
Mm-hmm.
a a great point, because I mean for many of us, like that's a lot to wrap your head around, and there's so much involved in it. Like it takes Ryan and myself half an hour to figure out like how to even quantify it, and we're not even scratching the surface of all of the things that are finite and how they're finite and how they break down and how um what
Mm-hmm.
you could do to slow it, progress it, make it go faster, make it go slower, do all these things that you could do with it. We're not getting into any of that, and I don't want to, but it's such a large, encompassing topic, and that you would have the wherewithal to ask the question, I think is a statement towards where your thinking is. So I hope it helps, but I hope it's an encouragement to you to like continue to press into those questions, right? Like these are the questions that stick with you, and as you continue to ask the questions, whether or not you find like the answer, I hope that that you at least share with us what you find on your adventure, and I think that that would be really cool. So
Mm.
that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if you find peace with it, awesome. Let us know how that journey goes. And I think really that's all you need, because this is again not an issue that can really, you're not going to stop things from decaying, but and obviously
And if
you
you
can
do,
create
tell
an
us.
industry. Yeah, you can create an industry out of preventing or slowing the decay. Many of those industries exist, such like salt mining and um, refrigerating, heating and cooling, blah blah blah, all sorts of different things. Um, but yeah, you're never gonna fully just solve that one outright, and so I think you have to figure out how to obtain peace. That's reality. Peace that reality is the way it is, and I think that that's the quest on many different fronts, not just this specific thing, but in life, there are going to be lots of things you dislike about reality. And you're going to have to figure out, how do I obtain peace about this fact? Where do I find the value in where it seems to hurt me? How do I learn from it, that reality, and come to be thankful for it? Um, that's a mind trick you got to keep doing throughout your life, and if you stop doing that, I think you end up becoming bitter over just tiny little things that other people are like, why are you so uptight about this? So yeah, no, thank you, August. Thank you for this topic. It's awesome. It's a great
Thank you.
topic. It's quite refreshing to hear one like this, so thank you so much. um, Great answers. Did really, sorry, your answers really did give me appreciation for the lack of the everlasting. Awesome. I'm not sure yet what will give me total peace with it yet, but I think I can take better steps towards it. Awesome. Fantastic. Great to hear that. That's really wonderful. That's lovely. And I wish you the best, August. You're awesome. You're an awesome human being, and you always impress me. So keep at it. You're
You've
awesome.
impressed me, and I've only this is all I have to go on. So
Oh, nice. First
yeah,
impression,
uh,
man. Doing great. Doing great. All
those
right.
last forever. So I've been told.
What's that?
I said those last forever.
Oh, yes. First impressions last forever. Yeah, I've heard that before, too. That's right. All
Um,
right.
but yeah, well, hey, that's one down.
One down.
Hopefully,
Yeah, as I
you
was going to say, one down.
if
So,
you're the rest of you here, like you can still like work with us. Like come add your thoughts. I'm sure
yeah.
if we were the only 3 or 4 people who were interested in that, I think some of you are eating too much cake cookies.
Cake and
You're too
cookies.
focused
Yeah.
on your cookies
Yeah.
to
Tell me if
really
you were
grapple with it.
consuming peanut butter cookies while that was going on, and that's why you didn't type
Yeah,
because
I mean, I understand those are finite, and that means they have value, and therefore,
you better eat them
I get
quick
it.
before they lose their flavor. Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Their texture goes off. That's what usually happens
I
to
don't.
cookies first,
But, oh, that's fair.
in general. Yeah.
You eat three. Good choice.
I mean,
Good
I did
choice.
eat three. Yeah, that's all right. That's perfect. That's the perfect number to eat cookies. Um, three or any less or more is actually probably the perfect number to eat with cookies because you can just honestly have as many as you want. I'd be happy, but your stomach might not be, and your body might not be. So
True.
yeah,
But fresh cookies are the best way to eat cookies, so I don't blame you. Like if you ate all of them, like
yeah. I wouldn't. I
yeah,
wouldn't.
I wouldn't be. Yeah, I
Yep,
wouldn't hold that against you.
that's right. Awesome. Oh, thanks, Saleh. Yep. If you have any topics you guys want to submit to us, feel free to do so at don'tworrywednesday.com, and we'd be happy to take them for you. Awesome. Yeah, way too much sugar for sure. All right. Yeah, I do not work for the economy. The economy works for me. Kat, I think you're too far above us in status for us to relate. Um, Come down
Yes.
to our peasantry selves and have a conversation so we can maybe meet you at your levels someday. Teach us your ways.
Alms for the poor.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna see who else we're gonna have another topic here.
Ooh.
So let me reload this tab real quick.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if strawberry paste is here. They said they will not be
Strawberry.
present. Oh yeah, of course. So, um, okay. And we also have some anonymous ones. That said they have no preference. Those are a little bit older. So why don't we get to one of those? Um,
Okay. Yeah.
all right. So
Ooh. Cheering people up.
cheering
That
people
sounds
up. You
like
want to do that
fun.
one? That sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that. I get to choose. Ha!
That's right.
All you.
Everyone else is
All
just
you.
a loser. No.
Yeah, all you. Loser. We could do
Loser.
losers
You didn't get
together,
to pick.
but.
Only Joe got to pick. Ah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going
Take
to go
that.
ahead and get this topic up on the board. I'm going to stop the old room real quick and then put it up there. I'm going to switch over the topic screen and I'm going to throw it up there. You can read along if you want. You can also close your eyes and imagine that you're looking at the thing that I'm reading to you. It's pretty short, quick. It's from Anonymous. It's titled Cheering People Up, and it reads as follows. How do we cheer up the people around us? How do we cheer up the people around us? That's from Anonymous. So thank you, Anonymous. Thank you for the topic. This is quick and simple and easy to read, but not necessarily quick and simple and easy to answer. We'll give you our best. Obviously, every person's going through their own thing, so that makes it a little bit tricky to solve. But to some degree, I think there are some main points we can cover that help, in general, cheer people up around us. And there's maybe some specifics we can add on, like actual to-dos, like try this strategy with a list of actions. But yeah, also, Anonymous, thank you for asking this question. It's very, very kind of you to worry about others around you, to want to cheer people up that are around you, to bring them joy, to bring joy into their life, especially when they're down, when they're having problems in their life. I think that's really great. Speaks about what kind of person you are and that you attempt to make this kinds of things happen. It takes a good person to want to make good for other people. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the topic, and I'm going to give it over to Joe for this response.
All right.
Joe's easy.
Man.
Joe cheers me up, so I'm sure he'll help you.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad. I'm glad that I could cheer you up.
He's always got a great
Thanks, man.
attitude.
Yay. I try.
Yeah.
I hope you guys try too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this in a interesting direction, I think, right off the bat. Which is partially because I find a lot of people who are focused on other people's happiness often neglect their own.
Mm.
And so I want to talk about this in like a way like directly to anonymous, whoever you are, but obviously I don't know that. And then I'll answer your question. But the first thing is that you are not responsible for the happiness of other people. You can't do that. You can't make people happy. Uh, that's unfortunately the nature of life. And so I just want you to be like at peace with that. Like I want you to be content with that and sit in that idea
Mm-hmm.
of like I can't make everyone happy, and that in some ways that's a good thing. And I'm going to talk about that right now, which is this idea that there are things that you don't want to cheer people up from, and there are things that, uh, yeah, we'll just go with that. You don't want to cheer people up from. So I'm going to bring up the first idea here, which is sometimes, and I know this is going to sound a little bit rough, life sucks. But that the kind
Accurate.
of bluntly, there's things that go wrong. If you get back to our last question, literally moments ago, things break down, and unfortunately, that leads itself to heartache. That leads itself to trouble. All right, that means that um, your car might break down, or something might happen where a family member has gotten old and passes away. Again, things are finite, and it's okay to have sorrow in that. Like that's okay. Like it's actually good to weep. And in fact, one of the things that you can do in those moments is, I'm gonna get back to, because I'm not a very wise person, some of my Bible
Yeah, you are.
references, but um,
Great.
well,
You're good.
thanks. Is the weep with those who weep and have joy with those who are having joy, and this idea that there are going to be people who are sorrowful, and while you might not be able to cheer them up, you can be with them in that season of their life. Like if they're going through something, especially the really hard things in life, they aren't short. Um, right? And happiness, cheering someone up, is usually a very temporary thing. It's usually very much moment by moment, right? Like I can tell somebody joke and make them laugh and cheer them up a little bit, but that doesn't remove whatever was causing them anguish, right? That just helps them feel better for the moment. And that's not to, don't let me discount that bringing people joy even sometimes is good, right? Like especially if the sorrow is deep. You need to be able to see that joy again. You need to be able to smile again, right? Especially if people are in a very dark place. But sometimes you also need to experience the sorrow. One, because it teaches us that value, just like the last question we were saying. That sorrow shows us the value, that finite ness of the people around us means, hey, with the moments that we have, we need to spend them uh, we need to value them. We need to treasure them. Like they're very important. So that sorrow can actually lead you to doing the better, improving, and building those relationships. And that's not bad. Like, that's actually a very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
This the other things are very hard. Might even be partially self-inflicted, partially not. Right? Like, and you don't 100% know. I had a friend come over this week who was going through a rough patch because, and has been for years. And does Joe talk about his relationships with on stream, or
Yeah.
okay? So like, and even the, not me, but the other Joe who has had struggles for
Mm-hmm.
over a year now. I think like that's a very difficult thing, and that's not something that like goes away in a moment.
Yeah.
For people who've had, I'm not necessarily referencing Joe here, but people who've gone through divorce or those times, right? Especially if children are involved. Um, for those parents, it's very rough because especially when you have children involved, that difficulty you might have had with that former spouse is continuing, right? Because you have children that you both take care of and you both love and you both care for.
And the
And
very fact that you have to fight over your spouse for your children is should never exist. That's
right.
traumatizing in a way.
Yeah. And we don't want that. Like, we're not saying that this is how you would want it, right? Like, there's the ideal. We talk about the ideal very much, but then there's also the reality. And the reality is sometimes those things do occur for whatever reason. Malfeasance by one party, malfeasance by both parties. And I think having that sorrow and the anguish is helpful to look into your soul and say, all right, am I doing the right thing? Like, was I involved? Was I a part of this? Right? Like, if you come out of that and you just and it's not anguish, it's like, that other person ruined everything, like I'm doing great. This is like, no, like, you haven't reflected on, did you have any impact in this, right? Did you have a part to play? Because often you will. Like, there's oftentimes things that happen in your life that are bad are partially, you can lay them, not all the time, partially you can lay them at your feet. And so that's a good thing, as strange as it sounds, because that means that you can do something about it, right? Like, the sorrow is, well, it is a negative emotion and it's painful. It also is an encouragement to say, hey, do something about this. Like, this wasn't good. What can you do about it? And there's still the other level of, maybe it wasn't you. Hello, Leos. I spelled that. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. There's another level of, you could just, there's some things that are just sad, and to wrestle with that. I listened to, some psychologists, and one of them is Jordan Peterson, but he talks about this idea that, like, you could be feeling bad because there's like some kind of emotional response that's improper within you, or it could just be that your situation is just awful, and that, as bad as that sounds, there's something in that you can correct or improve on. And so what I want to say to you in this is, you don't have to cheer people up, right? Like, if I cheer someone up, if they're doing something wrong and it's hurt them and they feel a deep anguish for it, if they've done something wrong that causes that and I alleviate the anguish, I've done them a great disservice. I'm actually hurting them more than if I would have said, I'm going to be here with you in this, and this is going to hurt, but we'll work through it. And so I'm burning the first half here of my go at this, but I want to encourage you that if you can't cheer someone up, that's not on you. And it's okay. And second, just be respectful of the other person's kind of emotions. There might be, not to say don't attempt to cheer people up. That's not what this is to say at all. But rather, just consider, is this the time that I should be? Before we get on to, and then I'll talk a little bit, but I'm going to pass over to Ryan about, yes, cheer people up, and we'll talk about doing that. So it's okay. Let people grapple with their emotions, and then consider, should I cheer people up? And then cheer them up if they need it. So I'm going to pass it over to Ryan. Hopefully he's got some good info, insight, wisdom. Well, hopefully. I know he has good insight, wisdom.
We'll find out.
No. I've already experienced it. Just
no. Well, it's usually not me.
Moment, so.
I just talk, things come out, and the Holy Spirit provides. That's the way it goes.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's not on me. I don't have to worry. Anyway, because Don't Worry Wednesday, it's easy. Anonymous, I think I really like what you started with, Joe, because my usual, I don't know if I'm very good at cheering people up. I think I am, but it's only through a process of meeting them where they're at, wherever they're at, when they're at their lowest. I try to meet them there. And I don't try to, I occasionally try to look over it just to give them a little bit of a chance to be like, well, I don't want to be that way right now. So I give them the offer. Like, sometimes I give them the I make a conscious effort to say, hey, I'm up here. Do you want to meet me up here? Or do you want me to go where you are and meet you down there? And so I present to them my up here. I see how they respond. And if they respond down here, I meet them down here. But if I give the up here and they respond up here, I'll meet them up here, right, for a time. And then eventually, if they start to go down, I go down with them and I talk to them about what's on their mind to solve it. I hope that makes sense. I hope that that's applicable. I know that was really general, but I think you get the idea. If someone's coming to me and they're like, I say hi and they say hi and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm kind of, good, happy speaking to them. Like, hey, how you doing? It's been a while, how you doing? And their response is down here, right? Like, oh, I'm not doing very well, right? I'll try immediately to make it go down here a little bit with them and be like, oh, that's what's going on. Talk to me about it. If you're okay with talking to me about it, and then I'll see how they respond, right? And then throughout that session, I'm talking to them. I call it a session. It's just friends getting together. But throughout that, I'm slowly trying to increase the bar and have them follow me up, right? And so I'll let them talk about whatever their issue is because they need to get that off of their mind and let go of it before they're going to be able to step up, right? If you're meeting someone and they're immersed in a problem, imagine this is the reality. It's like a simile, whatever. Yeah, actually starts with an A, and whatever, it doesn't matter. An example. That's not the word. For their problem, right? The way that their mind is going through this. If they have a problem and it's apparent, their brain is being chained to that problem and they're not going to come up, right? So it's like you meet someone and they're like, oh, I'm not having a very good day. Okay, just assume that their brain is currently chained down to the ground. All right, imagine there's chains wrapped around the person and nailing them and just like not nailing, but like keeping them into the ground. And until they start to unravel the knot that they're in, the chains, right? They're tied down, whatever. Until they start to unravel that and undo some of the locks, whatever it is, they're not going to be able to get off the ground, no matter how much good energy you give them. You can like throw memes at their head, at their face, right? And they're going to be like, oh, that one actually made me laugh. That was funny. Okay, that one made me, I feel a little bit brighter in my mood now, right? But the problem is that's temporary because all you did was, they're still chained to the ground. All you did was made them look above the clouds for a second. But when they come back to reality, they're going to be like, oh, but really I'm actually still chained to the ground. That's what's going to be happening in their mind. So imagine, physically they're chained down. You make a funny joke, they laugh. You cause their mind to think about something funny. But when they come back to, they're going to realize they're still chained to the ground, right? And so it doesn't help to be funny or live, like, it's not a good long-term solution. If you're trying to make someone happy, right? It's not a good long-term solution to just be funny or to try to pick them up with, being good-spirited, being fun, talking about things that have nothing to do with their problems so that you can get their mind off of it. There are places for that. Yes, there is a place for that. And people will find that on their own. You can pretty much assume that anyone who's going through any problem ever is already seeking out and providing themselves with getaway, runaway, short-term solutions to pretend they're not chained to the ground. You can assume that because we live in a culture that is constantly consuming entertainment and doing drugs and alcohol and stuff to get away from problems. So if you meet someone who's chained down to the ground by their problems, they're not happy, and you're trying to help cheer them up, you probably don't need to be the one to do that. They're already finding those solutions online while streaming YouTube videos or going to the bar and drinking or whatever it is, right? They're going to find those when they need it, that getaway experience. They're going to play video games whenever they need to, when they need to feel that, right? So if you really want to cheer people up, the answer is hard. And the answer is you got to take on part of their burden with them. You got to take up that yoke. I don't know if you know what a yoke is, but it's this weird wooden thing that go around the oxen's neck to pull a cart or other things. And it's a yoke it's a long board with multiple holes for multiple oxen to haul huge loads, right? And so when you pick up someone's yoke, yeah, not an egg, like an egg yolk. Come on, cat. Don't be so smart. No, when you pick up a yoke with someone, it's literally you see them on the board with their hole or their head through one of those holes, and you share that burden. You put your head in one of the other holes, right? And you together, again, you walk with them step by step together to slowly get them up here, right? And so that's really how you gotta approach these things sometimes. It depends, again, on a lot of things. One, are you the person to do this for them? They might not open up to you, right? Two, are they willing to be happy? They might not be willing to be happy because they're too sucked into their problem. They might not even be willing to be happy or cheered up, right? Three, are you even capable of handling that yoke? Because sometimes you can't. Sometimes they reject you out front and just say, you're not the man for the job. I'm not going to open up to you. Sometimes you find out they're going to open up to you and you just don't have the mental capacity to be their support. And as Joe said, sometimes people are in such a crazy, tight field of crap that it's like, this isn't going to be a one-time deal get together and you're going to be happy. And sometimes it's like, it's a lot to work through and it's going to take a long time to work through it all. And so you're going to find yourself down here and down here a long time before you find any steps. And then you find a couple of steps and you're like, cool, hey, we made some progress, right? I lifted their spirits up. And then you meet with them like in 2 days and you're back at the bottom again. And you're like, okay, well, let's do a couple steps again, you know? And you find yourself repeating that process. And you're like, you feel like you're making no work, but really all of it does add up over time. And eventually they have a breakthrough and they cut one of their chains. And all of a sudden they can get their shoulder a little bit off the ground. And now every time you talk to them, it's like up here rather than down here, you know? And they still got their chains and you still got to meet them. Always try to meet them up here first and see if they're willing to come up and meet you. That's good. But feel free to go back down here when it's clear they're not willing to meet you up there. And one of the pitfalls is if you are getting up here, some people will put on a facade, a face, whatever you want to call it, that they're up here, right? They're gonna pretend and joke around with you and have fun, but really they're not having fun at all. They're not actually cheered up. They're just putting on a facade, right? And so sometimes you got to call their bluff. If you actually want them to cheer up because you recognize they're just putting on a bluff, sometimes, rarely, you got to call them on it and be like, hey, let's talk it out. Like, I know you're suffering. Talk to me about it. Not in a mean way. Don't call out their bluff as like, in an insulting way. But being honest and real and just say, hey, I know you're going through stuff, and, I want to let you know I'm there for you. I recognize that you don't want to open up, you don't want to share with it because you don't want to make other people's problems. But I want to let you know that I'm willing to bear that weight because you're that important and I want to work through this with you, right? It's not like I just want to be the person that helps you. It's more like I see that you're going through something and I'm willing to suffer with you to help you get to that next step because I want to see you there. I want to see you at that next step. I want to see you really legitimately happy. And I'm willing to sacrifice something for that because you matter to me. So if you want to share, that'd be really great. Again, you don't have to, but it'd be really great. So what's on your mind? You can do that. Some people respond to that and then they'll talk to you and just doing that might make them feel a little bit more secure in life and start to unbind some of those chains because then they feel like, oh, they have someone that they can talk to, someone that was real with them and pushed them into that corner a little bit for them to open up, and then that opening will help them start to break things down and move forward. So again, that's my answer for how to cheer people up. Again, it's not quite as simple as, oh, make a funny joke. Because for me, I see that as a temporary solution that people can find anywhere. They can go on YouTube and look up funny videos. They can search for memes. They can, talk to a friend group that they know is always fun and they'll have fun. They can go play a video game. They can watch a movie. They can escape. People have plenty of ways to escape in this current world. So I don't think cheering people up is just my personal calling in life. So when I hear this question, I take that as instead of trying to solve something temporarily just for it to fall apart again, let's dig down and actually try to solve some of these real problems and not just make temporary escapes. And that's the way I attack this, just because that's the way my brain operates and always looks to give a better, fuller solution to something rather than a temporary band-aid. Look for the highest highs, the greatest goods, and that's the way my brain is oriented. So I'm sorry I kind of give you that kind of answer, but if that's not the answer you're looking for, I apologize. But that's what I got to give. So anyways, that's what I got.
You.
Yeah.
Oh.
So do you have anything you want to add to that, Joe?
Yeah, let's I'm gonna do the reverse. I'll try to finish us off by actually trying to answer the original question.
Yeah. That's great.
Which was, how do you cheer somebody up? What's a good way to cheer someone up? And I think for Ryan and for many people, some of those issues require you going down and digging to that certain level. But sometimes not. Sometimes you're down because of those chains that Ryan was speaking of are like self-inflicted. Like they're not even attached to the ground, but man, it feels like they are. And so you're holding yourself back. And part of
or you're just
getting
sick. Like you're just like physically ill and you're like, I could use a pick-me-up today.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, laughter is the best medicine, or so I've been told. I'm not a doctor though, so
Yeah.
I know a few doctors, but they're not me. Anyway, my wife's a doctor. Anyway, so on we go. This idea here then is that there are certain scenarios where you can help people identify what's holding them down and then encourage them to not have that occur. So let's go to thanks, Dr. Cat. Let's go to one of the very common ones that I see in terms of why people are distraught. You're not where you thought you would be when you started on the adventure you're on right now. Okay? You're not in your degree field where you thought you'd be by now. You've been practicing an instrument for so long and you don't know how to play it as well as you wish you did. You happen to, school, you're not learning enough, or it feels like you don't understand what you went to school for from the beginning. And one of the things that I recommend in especially those scenarios when you're trying to cheer someone up is to approach them with what brought you here. All right. Like you said you wanted to do this. Well, what about it? Like, why? Like, why did you say that? Like, one, they're gonna have one of two responses. Like, and their gut response is gonna be, "I have no idea." But in reality, they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made that decision, right? Like, you're a pretty rational human being, Ryan, I would assume, or most people out there try to be somewhat rational human beings. Like, why do you wear your favorite shirt? Most people will tell you, "Oh, it looks great." Get complimented all the time, or it's super comfy. I'm option number 2 here, by the way, but it's super comfy, and so that's why it's my favorite shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just like the pattern. Whatever it is, like there was a reason you made that decision, and having people get back to why they started doing something is actually a great way for them to like look up and go like, oh yeah, it's great. I'll give you an example. I coach the golf team for the school I teach at, and in case the polo didn't give that away, so I coach golf, and I had a student message me on the day, and if he watches this, he'll know exactly who he is. But he messaged me on the day of our conference final. He said, "Look, I don't think I want to play next year. I feel like I'm holding everyone back." And then I didn't message him back because like that's not something I can address on the golf course. Like you're still going through things. Like you're still dealing with those emotions, but you have to keep living, right? Like they are gonna, unless it's something egregious, in which case contact the authorities or somebody who can help them. But they're gonna have to keep going through that for a while, regardless. So I let him play it out, and then we got to the end, and two things happened. One, he shot the best second half of the round he's ever had in his entire life, which is great. And second, I got to talk to him about how far he's come. And so this past week, I have video. So when we do golf, some of the things we can do are swing analysis. So we record your swing and say, hey, here's what you're doing. And most people look at their swing and then, I did not think I was doing that. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you've ever done that,
Mm-hmm.
I
I
highly
believe that.
recommend for anyone out there who thinks they're doing something in a certain way, record yourself doing it and then see if you're actually doing it that way.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a good chance that you're not. Anyway, so I showed him his swing from the beginning of the first year he started playing, which was last year. And like it's bad. Like it's objectively bad. It looks painful. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't pull a muscle while we were teaching him. But it's bad. And he looked at it and he went, "What the heck is that?" Because it was bad. It was a bad swing. And I'm like, look at how far you've come. Like, look back and say, hey, I came from that to this. And it is in no small measure a great improvement. And if I hadn't been doing that thing, I wouldn't be this far along. I wouldn't be to here. I wouldn't have made the friends that I made along the way or done the things that I've done to get to this point. For example, backstory, for those of you who have listened to me talk, I always bring it up and I'm sorry. And for those of you who haven't listened to me talk, this might be an interesting topic for you. All right. I went to school, like college, for professional golf management. Okay. Golf. Which you see, you're a golf coach. Like, what do you expect? All right. Time out. We're getting there. Second, I spent 4 years working as a professional accountant. Well, thanks, Meow. I worked as an accountant, which has nothing to do with golf, obviously. And then the last 3 years, I've been a teacher, which has nothing to do with either of them. And and I've had this moment where I sat down and I went, why in the world did I waste so much time as a golf pro? Why in the world did I waste so much time doing accounting? Why, like, how far could I have been if I had just not done those things? And then I look back and I go, but look at what they've prepared me for, right? Like, I coach golf now because, frankly, all of my golf experience from college is helping other people. I help with the accounting at the school I work for because my accounting degree has prepared me to help other people. One of the things that you're going to find is when you look back, you can actually see the amazing things that have brought you to where you are, and that should encourage you, right? Like Meow has been here for, I'm picking on Meow, but Meow's been here for a long time, and for I don't even know how long, longer than I've been here almost, I think possibly. But I don't remember Meow having the blue icon wrench thing, so I'm gonna assume that that's a new-ish thing, or maybe it's even not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. Even if it's not a newish thing, like look back on that and go, "Oh, I was there at one point." Like I'm speaking to you here, but I remember, man, it must have been is it 5 years ago now?
Oh my
When I
gosh.
first met with Kyle,
Mm-hmm.
and I, it was because I did accounting. Like that's the only reason I'm here originally off of it. I remember when I first messaged Ryan because I wanted to take over Don't Worry Wednesday because it was a thing that he had done with the Beta Cat, which can you still find those on this channel, or is it the
It's Static P
other one?
Plus. Yeah.
Static P Plus. You still find those on Static P Plus. And so I found those and I was like, hey, I want to do this. And he's like, that's cool. Also, we're bringing it back, so, you know, you don't have to. Okay, he didn't say that, but that's kind of where this began. Okay, so there's a long time between what uh what you started with and where you are now. And if you can take the time and you can pick up your head up just far enough to look back from where you came from, you're going to be able to see something amazing. And even if that pathway, has brought you down, right? Like, oh, I was here and then I made these choices. You know what that does is it says, hey, I see that. These are the ways to go back, right? Like, you climbed down a mountain and you're like, shoot, wrong mountain. And you just look
Mm-hmm.
back up and you're like, well, that's the path. I was just there. I could go up that one. All right. There's these options when you're trying to cheer people up of like, hey, recognize how far you've come. Like, just take a moment, right? Like, I know you're busy. I know things are feeling crazy right now. I know you're down, but have you considered the good that you've done to get to this point? And I think that is a hopefully encouraging aspect for you. Hopefully that cheers you up. Like, oh yeah, I remember this cool thing, and say that. Um, you know, Meow says, cry with them and cheer someone up. I've had many an experience where I've been crying with someone and I said, hey, you remember when da 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 da, and they're like, oh yeah, and we're like bawling, but we're laughing, and it's great, and it hurts. Your eyes sting a little bit, and it's just a wonderful experience that I can't describe to you, right? Like when you're saying cheer them up, like if I tell someone an offhand joke, because I tell jokes all the time and they're terrible and most people cringe, okay? That's not nearly the joy that comes from laugh crying through a difficult situation with a
Mm-hmm.
friend. And so I hope that from this topic, you find that experience. Like that would be good for you. Like forget about their experience. I mean, don't. That's kind of selfish, but that'll be a good experience for you. And so, especially if it's someone you've known for a while, or go into that moment with them and remind them of the joy that you've experienced together. Now you'll notice a really important thing here is that I can't speak to, and I highly recommend that you don't speak to virtual relationships. Because it just won't. It doesn't have the same effect, and that sounds rough to say, but there's a couple reasons for it. One, there just isn't that level of. I mean, this sounds bad because I've never actually met Ryan in real life, but.
All right. Yeah, we haven't. That's crazy to me still.
There's this level of like, I can't actually, like if I were to try and encourage Ryan, I don't have that wherewithal. I don't have the experience. I don't have the life on life that really makes that encouragement mean as much. But Kyle or Joe might have those experiences that can help. And so I recommend that you take this tact with people that you know, and then recognize that there are times when people will message you and say, hey, I'm going through a rough patch on the Discord or the virtual space, and it's virtual. Like, you might not have the ability to help them through it in the same way, and that's okay, right? Like, again, back to our original point before, you are not responsible for other people's happiness. All right, just your own. So anyway, that's a lot. And I hope that encourages Anonymous, whoever you are, encourages you to spend that time with other people and to just grow together, and hopefully long-lasting joy and not just a little bit of cheering up. Do you have anything else, Ryan, or any more wisdom has been imparted upon you?
Just a slight amount, and then we'll call it for this one. I do want to say one quick thing that I find really helps cheer people up is when you go out of your way for them to specifically make their day. When you go out of your way to write a lovely card or note that you in it, you're pointing out their good values, their blessings. They're not like things that they have, but things that they are, that you find are attractive and good, right? Ways that they've inspired you. Writing things like that to people in a note and sending it to them, even if it's something online, something like that really does tend to lift people's day up. It makes their day. When you go out of your way just to do something like that for them, it's not necessarily, it'll cheer them up. It'll cheer them up. Maybe it won't make them laugh. It might make them cry, but it will cheer them up, generally speaking. Depends on what kind of place they're in. But if it's heartfelt and it's very lovely and loving and good, and you're thinking deep about their beauty and the things you find beautiful about them, their just different events or things that they've done that have inspired you, or different ways that you know that's going to reach them and touch them in a very good way. Intentionally writing those things down in a note or a letter or a email or whatever. That's a good way to help someone's day be better. So that's what I got. Just that little nugget.
Well, thank you. Those are good nuggets.
Yeah.
The best kind. Deep
Yeah.
fried. And wait, what?
I thought chicken nuggets. All right. Actually, I don't like most chicken nuggets. Don't worry, Wiz, it can only be viewed by beautiful people. That's accurate. Only the beautiful people are let in. Everyone here is beautiful.
Exactly. Right. We definitely put that right on the. We've hacked all of your cameras, and there's like a AI algorithm. You're just not actually allowed to join unless you're beautiful. So
yeah, the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm doesn't even select you for watching videos of our nature unless it has found out that you are certified beautiful. So,
Mhm.
what?
Triple A grade, beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, it's accurate. Um, yeah, you always do a good job when you come to the show, Joe. Aw, that was
Oh,
really
well,
nice.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does
well,
great.
that means you've been around for a while because it's been a hot minute since the last time I was here.
Yeah, yeah. Aw, I will let DWW dox me. Heck yeah, me too. I trust
Same.
DWW. All right. Well, thank you so much for this topic, Anonymous, and we hope that we've been helpful in your search for cheering other people up. Obviously, there's other things like, just cheering up a bunch of people. You can create fun videos for them to watch, as long as they're not too cringy. That's pretty good, and so on and so forth. But hopefully, all that's good and helpful, and helps also avoid trouble of thinking that it's in your power to make people happy, or that that's necessarily what you should be doing in the first place, because sometimes that's just not the time and place. And it's better to honor their grief and meet them there. Yeah. So thank you so much, Anonymous.
Yeah, thank
Wish you
you.
the best. So we've got a good 30 minutes left of the show. You want to hit up another one?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Um, so I have curated both
Ooh.
Meow and Soaking Pillow, aka Saule, also submitted one that I have curated. So let's see here. Um, all right. I'm just going to go with. I'm gonna try to get some of these older ones out of the way if you don't mind. Meow and Saule, you guys are awesome, and you guys show up here often, and you're both literally moderators. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna do Strawberry Paste. Since they said they will not be present, but and they posted this last Sunday, so it'd be a good time to do it.
And plus, Joe has much more wisdom on your topics, I'm sure.
No, okay, maybe
Yes.
depends on if it's true or not. So dumb.
Exactly.
So
It
accurate.
actually 100% depends on whether it's true or not.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and
And I'm
that's
not
only true in
lying
this
because I
scenario.
don't know the level of truth to my statement.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it still a lie if you don't know the level of truth to your statement?
It's not.
Or
It's
is it
not.
just a mistake?
It's a mistake, or is it? Because you
There you
willingly knew that you didn't know and you still said it. I
go.
guess that's a lie.
But I could be telling the truth.
Yeah, you could be right though. So if you're right on accident, then. But are you
Hmm.
pretending you know? Because if you're pretending you know, that part's a lie. The fact of
No,
you
no.
pretending.
Well, okay, maybe I did. I did say he's better than it at me, but I just assumed that he was
Yeah, so it's an
based on
assume.
what I read.
It's an assumption. It's not a lie. It's an assumption. That's how you categorize it.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, we got that bit of English solved for us. Good job, everyone. That was important. And now, don't worry, I do it all the time too, especially in my own head. I do that daily about words. Daily, I do that exercise. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull up this next topic for you guys. You can feel free to read along. It's from Strawberry Paste. It's titled. Hold on, I got some boxes.
We got some info.
It's titled "Self Grudges." And I'm going to go ahead and read it for you. All right. I have a grudge with myself. No, I have many grudges with my past. I find myself holding grudges against myself for things that I thought I resolved within myself years ago. Thoughts of things that happened years ago keep coming up and upsetting me now. There is nothing I can do now regarding these situations. Often, I don't have any remaining connection to the people involved anymore. Just me. With many of these grudges. Oh, that's a comma. With many of these grudges, I did something while I was growing up. With many of these grudges, I did something while I was growing up. Was told it was wrong. Wrestled with it. Gained an understanding of why it was wrong, and accepted it, apologized for it, if possible, and to now understand how to avoid doing the same bad thing. That all happened years ago. Why do these things come back to haunt me now? How do I move on for real? Apologizing and repenting heal the wrongdoer, and forgiveness heals the wronged. But I am in this case 3 of the 4 parties involved. I am the perpetrator of some wrongdoing in the past against a party no longer present, but now I am the perpetrator against myself for holding a grudge, and I am the victim of my grudge. I feel that I'm in danger of holding a grudge against myself for holding these grudges against myself. That's totally relatable, by the way. I'm lost in my confusion, and I'm very frustrated. Strawberry paste. All right. That was very well written, very well said, very relatable, and thank you. Thank you for posting this. Thank you for sharing a bit of your, an honest bit of your life. I know that working through these things kind of solo is usually how we prefer it, but you're being willing to open up and talk about it and hope for some answers in your confusion and your frustration. And I really appreciate and I'm honored that you would even consider us. But I just want to let you know that you're human like the rest of us, and those frustrations are things I think a lot of us have faced. And being upset about things in the past that you already thought you forgave yourself over, that I think is a pretty common experience among people as well. Not that it can't be solved, but just know that you aren't alone, and know that other people have gone through this and solved this before you. So that's a good, helpful tidbit that should be encouraging that you can as well, because you can. And this is a bit of a tricky topic because, well, we don't know exactly what parts of this you've already solved. And we're not psychologists to necessarily be able to take you step by step through solving some of these. I would recommend a therapist over ourselves for something like this, because they are very well qualified into going down those paths and touching on each one of them with you to help give you bits of advice on how to move forward through those and relive those experiences in a way that can really be more sufficient in healing you, rather than just however you've done it so far, because it could just be that the way that you've forgiven yourself isn't quite complete to some regard, or it could be something completely different. And so that's why I would say, if you continue to struggle with this and it's really chaining you down, and you can't stop thinking about it, and it's affecting your daily life, seeing a therapist isn't a bad option for this, especially this specific problem. But with that out of the way, I'm going to give it over to someone who I find should be of good help, because he's talked about issues like this before, and I found that it was very engaging and helpful. So I'm going to get it over to Joe and see what he's got to say.
Thank you. Right. I'm just glad that you have a good memory like that, because I don't remember.
I remember
having that
everything.
discussion. Oh, perfect.
I lied about that. Darn it. Now I'm the liar.
Perfect memory.
I have never done that.
Oh,
never had a
okay.
perfect memory. I mean.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Never perfectly remembered a single thing in my life. I mean, gonna be honest.
That's fair. Well, memories are sometimes insufficient, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're gonna try and be psycho people for a quick second, and that sounds bad, but we're gonna roll with it anyway. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the things that we've brought up, and hopefully, we can provide some level of information to you that might be helpful, might help you to deal with certain things, and maybe that will help you to move through things. Okay, first things, with most psychologists, and one of the things that typically would recommend, part of the reason that it's so difficult for us to sometimes answer some questions, is when you're really trying to help someone, the first thing you should do, even if it's a very specific case like this, is you should make sure that the other person, like we're helping you, so we're trying to make sure that you understand the problem fully. And by that, I mean, I'm going to ask you questions until I can satisfactorily tell you what your problem is based on what you've told me. And that can take some time because as you've indicated here, you have some level of confusion. And that is with any problem, that's going to be the case. So don't feel bad about that. If you're confused, all of us are confused at some level or another. So don't let that be a detriment to you. And in case you're wondering why my hands are this way, my dog is here now. So just, it's a thing. And it's a dark room now because time has elapsed and the windows are open. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Weird time thing. The sun moving in its
That's
orbit.
okay. Yeah, you look great though in the dark room. You still look great. You're well illuminated. It's beautiful. I'm a little jealous.
The thing that we have to consider here then is that we're going to ask questions to get to an answer, and we can't do that in this particular format. That's just the limitation of it. So we're going to guess, which I don't recommend. So don't hold it against us if we guess wrong or, you know, we're making some bold leaps. We're not trying to offend you. That's not what we're here for. What we're actually doing is trying to hopefully guess, based on the limited information you've given us, what your issue is so that you might be able to alleviate it. And part of the thing when we guess is we're going to guess in a way that we think it will apply to the most number of people. So even if it doesn't help you, hopefully it helps somebody else, and you can take comfort in knowing that you've helped someone simply by asking your question. So let's get to it here. We're talking about forgiving yourself for grudges, sometimes against yourself. In this instance, from what I'm reading, you've said that you had an issue with other people, and those other people are long gone, either through age or moving away or just losing contact, which happens. They're not there anymore. And that grudge that you had between yourself and them is kaput. You finished it simply by nature of they left. Okay? And in some instances, that's the best way to alleviate a grudge. You know, you can't come to a consensus. You let them live their life however they would, and you live your life how you would, and you don't let that impact each other, even if your disagreement, because that disagreement might not have a resolution. I know that for many of us, we like to think we can come to a compromise, and that's not always the case. If I have two opposed ideas, like it just won't, like, I can't do both of them, right? Like I can't, if I want to have, you know, someone thinks this wall should be blue and someone thinks the wall should be red. Unless purple is technically good enough for both of them, which is unlikely because purple is neither red nor blue, they can't both happen at the same time. And so what we have is there are scenarios where if you can't come to an agreement, somebody's just going to have to find a different wall, basically. It's a weird analogy here, but hopefully you get the point there. And so don't necessarily feel bad that even if you never got to make it up, okay? Because one of the things that I'm reading from this, and one of the reasons that it might continue to upset you is because you never got to resolve it. Resolving a grudge, especially between you and other people, can weigh heavily on you, right? And if you don't have contact with them, it can be rather painful. It can be something that's hurting you because you never got to resolve that. I've had it where I said some rather mean things to someone who then I didn't have contact with for forever, right? Like there are people in high school that I made fun of because I'm a bully and now I'm a teacher, so I bully people still in high school, but that's neither here nor there. Just with homework now instead of with words. I've bullied people, and I think back and I went, wow, that was not nice. and I don't get to go back. Like I will never get to go back and say, I'm sorry, because they've moved somewhere that I don't know. And obviously they didn't want to keep talking to me because I was a jerk.
Mhm.
So there'll be those times where you just won't be able to resolve that grudge that may have been outstanding. And I want to tell you that that's okay. Like it's okay that some things never got resolved, and that small tinge of like I never fixed that isn't bad. Okay? It's just if you take it as a helpful reminder from your conscience to not do it again, it's actually a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to have that idea with you. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. I This person again, if they ever watch this, they're going to know I was talking about them. I had a student the other day came in and was wearing a sweatshirt for Lizzo, who I guess is a musician. I don't know her. I think it's a her. It worked very well. Anyway, the back of this shirt is Lizzo. I guess that's the artist's name. Well, it's a cursive shirt, and let me tell you something about myself. I love pizza. And the first thing thought when I saw the back of this sweatshirt was it said pizza. And I was
Mm.
like, yes, a pizza shirt. And this student was very offended that I said pizza because that's not what it says. It says this artist's name. And I I I teased the student for a little bit on it. But then the next day I remembered, hey, that's one, I'm a teacher, so that's not okay anyway. But two, I remembered those people that I teased or made fun of that I never apologized to, and I said, I need to go apologize to this student. And the student just laughed and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even care. And there's a good chance that whatever grudge you had, if you were to ever find that person again, they'd be like, what the heck are you even talking about? I don't remember you doing that. Remember, we just talked about how, other than Ryan, the rest of our memories are imperfect. So
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he remembers everything I've offended him with, but most people don't. And so take comfort in that. Like it's okay. Like we do move on. Like people move on from many things. There's some things that we don't let go of, but that's a self-determination, and I hope you're finding that out right now, because the second half of what you're saying is where you're not forgiving yourself for that, and then that grudge is hurting you more now. And so it's okay. Like it's okay to forgive yourself, and you might have to go through the forgiveness process with yourself because there's nobody else left. You said you're three of the four people.
Mm-hmm.
You're the original either victim or problem causer, and then you're both the problem and the victim in the second scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to go through both processes. I'm suggesting to you that in the original scenario, that the pain you feel from the grudge left over might be encouraging you to do the right thing in the future, and that's good. In the second scenario, you still have to go through apologizing and repenting and forgiving, even though it's just you. So you just have to do it all on your own, right? So you have to apologize to yourself and repent, like, hey, I'm holding a grudge against myself, and that's not okay. And I'm sorry that I'm doing that. The apologizing and repenting, like, I don't want to do it anymore. Please forgive me for that. And then you on the other side of it, because as with anything, apologizing and repenting should come before the forgiveness, ideally. Like the person who is wronged should come to the person who has been wronged. All right, so you've wronged yourself. Hopefully you apologize. You need to apologize and repent to yourself. And then you need to go to yourself and then forgive yourself. And you know what the best part about that is? You're in control of all of those things. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you've recognized that, hey, I have wronged myself. And that's not good. And I need to apologize for it. And repentance isn't just like hey, that was a bad thing to have done. That was a bad thing to have done. I don't want to do it again. Right? Like, stop holding grudges against yourself. All right? That's part of it. Right? Because if you forgive yourself, like, you could forgive yourself. Like, yes, I'm holding a grudge against myself, and I forgive myself. But if you don't repent and try to not do it again, then you're going to have the same scenario come over again. So in this instance, you have to do both. You have to say, okay, I've wronged myself. I'm holding this grudge against myself for not forgiving myself for the other thing that I'm doing, which that was a mouthful. But I forgive myself, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do it anymore because I now know that it's better. I know it's improved. I know that that relationship, I've gone blurry. I know that that relationship is okay. It's okay that that grudge maybe never got resolved because that sometimes happens. And I forgive myself for that and apologize for it. Joe's here. Well, Joe, swap out for me. Just kidding. Don't do that. That would ruin many stream setup things. But it's okay to forgive yourself. It's okay to repent to yourself. It's okay to be on both sides and say, okay, I'm here and I'm feeling better about it. But you have to give yourself permission to do it. And if you can't do that, I am giving you that permission right now. You are permitted to do this for yourself. And so hopefully that fully responds to what you have from my perspective. And now hopefully Ryan has a bit more wisdom from another wiser and more perfect memory perspective.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about the perfect memory thing.
Yeah.
I forgot about the perfect memory thing. Just to show how true that statement really is. Okay. Yeah, well, I think, Joe, you really did cover a lot of the bases. I really don't have too much to share, but I'll give my best. I think, I've talked a lot on self-forgiveness. I'll talk again, Strawberry Paste, just as a refresher and a reminder. But, with self-forgiveness, so that you can stop holding a grudge against yourself, right? What this grudge is mingled with guilt, right? Sort of thing, right? It's an experience of guilt. And guilt is a very good thing. However, guilt can become, as I've said it before, guilt can become the devil's playground. Because when you do something wrong and you continue to accuse and bring it up for the aim of self-deprecation, is that the right deprecation? Defecate? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's not defecation. It's self-deprecation. Yeah. I got it.
Not the second one.
Oh, no. Okay, we didn't say that. Okay. Yeah. When you are in a situation where you keep on bringing up the bad things you did for the sole purpose of knocking yourself down and making yourself feel more guilty, you have run the purpose of guilt out. You are no longer using guilt for its core purpose. You're using guilt for another means, and guilt is a means for self-destruction. Holding yourself down, not holding yourself accountable. It's holding yourself down. And that's why I say it's the devil's playground, right? Whether you're religious or not, that's basically one of the sole roles of the devil, is to bring up, like, this is core example of like what people will say, well, it's the devil in me, They're continuously bringing up the bad part of you and accusing you of being a bad person so as to prevent you from being a good person. Because when you're concentrated on the bad in yourself, you can't like yourself, you have low self-esteem, you don't get out as much and do the good things you think you should be doing. because you keep on thinking you're not good enough. You keep on thinking, you're programming yourself to think that you are a piece of crap and you don't deserve good things, and you're never going to do good things because you're just a crap person, right? And so that's like the core role of the devil. So that's why I say it's the devil's program, or the devil's playground. So your objective is to use guilt for the purpose of good, not for the purpose of self-destruction, right? And when you experience that guilt and you let it run its course, but you do not let go of it, you end up kind of where you are now. This is my take on it. It's just like Joe said in the beginning, we can only make assumptions here because we aren't right with you able to ask questions. But this is kind of how I see it. This is my best judgment. There's a song I wrote. It's called When the Darkness Comes. You probably heard it. It's from Static P. If you never heard of him, welcome. Welcome to the channel. Anyways, it's not that channel, but regardless. So it says in the, when the darkness comes, don't betray yourself. Don't betray yourself for it, because the darkness isn't out to do you well. The core sort of vision and feeling I had for that song is like when you betray yourself for the darkness, like when you recognize that there's this darkness within you and you decide you're not going to get out of it, you decide you're going to stay in it and sulk. See what that is? I'm going to try to explain it to you. When you recognize that you're in the darkness and you need to decide it's just time to come out, but you refuse to do so. Joe, you didn't. He wasn't on camera, but Joe's looking around his very dark room. When you realize that you're in a cycle of self-destruction and you're choosing not to get out of it, or you're just confused and you don't know how to get out of it, right? That's fair place too. You need to realize and recognize that the reason you're there, there's a reason you're there. Mentally, there's a reason why you have trapped yourself there. You're looking for something in that darkness. And the thing people are usually looking for is justification for being in the darkness in the first place. They find themselves broken. They find themselves angry at themselves. They find themselves with a grudge against themselves, right? And then they're displeased with themselves, right? Of course, you're displeased with yourself. That's the current situation you're in. You had a grudge against yourself, and now you have a grudge for having a grudge against yourself, right? You're there. You're displeased with yourself because you were displeased with yourself. So now you're stuck there looking for a justification for being there in the first place. Because you feel like if you find that justification for being there, well, then your problem's solved. It was okay to be there in the first place, right? That's kind of how your brain works. It's like, aha, so I was right to be upset with myself. Aha, so I was right to, be in this place. I was right to hold on to this darkness, and I'm going to keep on holding on to this darkness until I find that I was right for holding on to it. When someone does something wrong, they want to be proven that it was okay for them to do that wrong thing. And as soon as they figure out that that's not a right way to think about things, they leave. They leave the darkness, generally speaking. They start crawling out of it. They find their way out. They start reforming their mind around the subject. It's especially hard, though, when the reason you're in that is because you're upset at yourself for getting upset. Because it's hard, because when you're upset at yourself for getting upset, the thing you want to do is like, I had every right to be upset because blah, 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 blah. And you're searching for that still. But the problem is it's not there to be found. Again, this is just an assumption. But this is something I think a lot of us have gone through. You know, you're stuck there. You want to find that aha, and it's not there. And until you find it, you're going to stay where you're at. And what I would recommend is stop looking to be justified. And I know that sounds really weird because you recognize already. It's like, I already know I was wrong and I'm wrong for being here. So how can you say that I'm looking to be justified? Well, chances are that you're looking to be justified in the fact that you're upset with yourself and that it's good to be upset with yourself. Because you believe in your heart that it's good to be upset yourself for the things that you've done in the past. That's where you're looking for your justification. You believe wholeheartedly that it's okay and good to be upset at yourself for doing wrong things in the past. Well, fair. Fair. It is okay to be upset with doing things that are wrong. But not really okay to be upset for doing things that are wrong in the distant past, where you've already solved them and you've already overcome them and you can do no difference to them, and it doesn't help you to worry about them anymore. Now, if you've already run the course and you're sitting here, basically you've just entered the devil's playground. You keep on re-accusing yourself. Satan is the accuser, right? You keep on re-accusing yourself just to rub it in. And so you have to tell yourself, like, hey, it is not okay to be mad at myself. It is not I am not justified in being mad at myself over this. Just as it is not okay and it's not justified for you to be mad at someone else who did something 3 years ago that you already told them it was all okay and you've forgiven them. Right? Because you're doing the exact same thing. You're being mad at someone in the past. That past person is no longer present. That past person no longer exists. You being mad at that thing is being mad at literally a non-existent thing. And trying to pull that into the present and apply it to reality now. And that's why your brain struggles over it, because that's not the reality. Your brain has a conflict with that, right? It's not realistic to be mad at something that isn't real. And right now, those things aren't real anymore. They're not. Like, they really happened. Yeah, sure. They really happened. But they're not real now. They're not really happening. They're not physically present. They aren't temporally present. They aren't present in your life. Actual issues that are pending. They're in the past, right? And so you have to convince yourself that, like, it's harmful and wrong and not justified to be angry at this person from so many years ago who already tried and did his best to make up for his or her wrongdoings. That person already did what they could do. You know that. Stop being mad at them. That's not right. And you have to convince yourself of that. And until you recognize that where you are is, again, just like the devil's playground, where you are is just a place built for self-destruction, a place searching and longing for justifying that it was okay to be mad at yourself. Until you commit to recognizing that all of those things aren't helpful, you might be stuck there. You have to prove to yourself that you can't be mad at that person. That person's a good person now. They changed. They're doing things differently. And they intend to do things differently. Like, your intentions matter too. That's a huge thing as well. Right? People, you cannot undermine your intentions. Who you are is who you are inside is what your intentions are the result of, right? What you intend is a result of who you are inside, right? The person that makes you up the person that is you, all the things that make you, your heart, the way you think about things, what you think is good and bad, right? All those things that make you up, those formulate your intentions. And so what kind of person do you intend to be, Strawberry Paste? What kind of person do you intend to be right now? Well, that's you. That's who you are now. You aren't whatever was in the past. So that other stuff in the past, like, it doesn't even matter. And then one last thing I'm going to add on to this is there's one important other lesson here that a lot of people fall into. You are not the sum of all of your miscalculations, all of the bad you've done, all of your sins, all your miscommunications. You are not the sum of all of the bad things you've done in your life. You're also not the sum of all the good things you've done in your life. And you aren't a sum of both together. You are who you are. And your value is infinite. And it's not based on those actions, all right? Those actions might bring you favor among certain peers. Those actions might move you down one path or the other, right? But if you treat other people based on their actions, then you will find yourself treating yourself based on your own actions. And I will tell you that in the end, that is a possible recipe for disaster and self-hatred, because you will never live up to perfection. And you know more about you than you will know more of the wrongs about you than you will ever know about anybody else. Because we have a good mind for remembering those things as human beings. We tend to anyways. So if you are grading other people by their actions, good or bad, and you're saying that they are the sum of their actions, like you look at people and you're just like, that person's not a very good person. Unfortunately, that will lead you down the road of, I'm not a very good person. And that might be why you've ended up here. Because it's easy to bring up the past and recognize and try to sum those things up and recognize, like, oh, wow, I'm not a good person. And I don't like that about myself. And I can't change those things, and those things are permanent. And it gives you more reason to be angry at yourself and more reason to find more bad things about yourself. You'll just keep on bringing up and finding new ones, because now your whole focal point on yourself is that of one who is trying to find bad things. You end up creating a person inside whose goal is to find the bad things you've done and accuse yourself of them as if you're that person, so that you can make yourself believe that you're crap. So you can justify that idea that you don't have to live up to the world's standards because you're crap anyways. Or, hey, it's okay you didn't finish those projects on time because you're just crap. Remember that? You can let yourself go if you believe that you're crap to some degree. I've seen people go down that road. I've seen people test their conscience so much they don't have one. So there's a lot of pitfalls here, and I'm trying to just give an overall, just swipe across some different ones where I see pitfalls that are possible, and I don't want you going down. I wouldn't want anybody going down. So if perhaps any of those jumped out at you, great. If not, sorry. All I could do is my best. But yeah, that's what I got. I'm sorry to end on such a kind of dark note, but that's what I got for now. And Joe, did you have anything you wanted to follow up with?
Dark notes. Yeah, that's me in this room here.
Yeah, that's true. You are a dark note.
Yeah. I was looking at something that Neanne said. You gotta be your own best friend. If you're not there
Yep.
for yourself and don't forgive yourself, you're just gonna block people out. Which reminds me of another Static P song. No one's in this alone. So I read through your question here again. You used the word I 18 times in 2 paragraphs, which is a lot. It's a very self-focused question, and that's not necessarily bad. I'm not here to critique you.
Mm.
It's an observation on the idea that where is your focus? And that even just taking the focus off for a second can help you actually better analyze what you're going through. Okay, because when you're, if you stare at a single point and like focus on it and draw near to it and look at it, you'll find the issues, right? Like my house is relatively new. If I go look in all the corners at all the trim, I'm going to find the small paint drips that went somewhere they weren't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to find all the errors. If I just look deep enough, I will find the imperfection. And there's that, but you don't have to hold that against yourself. Again, I feel like with all these questions, I can't not say it, but in the Christian faith, you aren't perfect. You're never you're never going to make it. You won't get there. And that's kind of okay. That wasn't what you were meant, you aren't. Somebody else did that for you. And there's a level of like, you have to let go of that sin or that pain that's attached to it. Like with Christ, it's gone. Like it's not attached to you anymore. And in the Christian faith, like stop dwelling on it. Like it's not, assume it's not there anymore. And you want to let go. And so, well, it's very self-focused and you can see all your pain. Let it go. Let it go. No, sorry. That's a Frozen song. And I might get shunned if I sing that one. And because
great.
I can't sing.
Oof.
So let it go. And know that you're not alone in it. All right. I don't remember all the lyrics to Ryan's song but he has a perfect memory, so he would. But
I'm
something
so
like
bad at remembering my own lyrics.
nobody is in it alone is a line, which is
Mm-hmm.
true. Nobody's in this life alone, thankfully. I'm on this show with Ryan because man, it would be tough to do by myself, and I'd be a little afraid. And it delves into a realm of the idea that you have to learn to trust other people again is pretty much the basis of the song to an extent. And that takes time. That takes you saying, you know what? I can't keep holding this against myself, or I'm never going to learn to trust these other people. Because if you keep spending all this time looking at yourself and what you've done, and you think, oh my, I'm so terrible, nobody will be able to have a relationship with me. And I'm not talking about romantic or anything like that. I'm talking just like friendships, meaningful relationships with family and friends. If you're focused on the evil that you've done, I mean, for sure, you would never want them to. And you would never trust them to look at that and go, that's okay, right? Like it's very hard if you're looking at yourself to say, I met this person. This person says they want to be my friend. I don't trust them because I see what I've done, and I'm focusing on what I've done. And this is where I want to remind you, like, you're not alone. Nobody's perfect. I'm not. I can't speak for Ryan. He might be.
Well, I'm not any less than perfect, at least.
For sure.
I'm just kidding. I'm not perfect.
I've made my fair share of mistakes, and if I look back, and if I were to only look at my mistakes, I would honestly tell you there's no reason I should be talking to you right now. There's no reason I should be on this show. There's no reason that I should be married with a small child. Like, I do not objectively deserve that. I've made many mistakes, and I have many things that people should be holding a grudge against me for. And if nothing else, it speaks to the power of forgiveness and not going it alone. I remember when I first discovered these songs. At the time, my wife and I were not together. I made some mistakes. I was doing things I shouldn't, and when I was looking at that and going, that's problematic. That's not good. You shouldn't do that. And that's not a formula for success in discovering what's going to fix it, right? In order to speaking of my wife, in order to come out of that, I wasn't focused on the wrongs I had done. I repented of those very quickly, and usually, and judging by what you're reading, you've probably repented of your grudges fairly quickly. It's the forgiving yourself that you're struggling with. And in this instance, it was an interesting scenario because my wife very quickly said, I forgive you. But I couldn't believe that. Right? Like, you've said this, but your reaction doesn't feel right to what I thought that would look like, right? The forgiveness doesn't feel right. Like, it can't be simple like that. It can't be you did or I am forgiven. Like, there's got to be another step, right? Like, and maybe that's what you're going through is you're saying, like, I've definitely done it. I totally forgive myself. What's the next thing that fixes it when it's already fixed? And as I worked through that, and as I dealt with the issues that were still that were plaguing me at the time, what I discovered was I wasn't in it alone. All right, I had a number of friends who were there with me. I had at the point I was reading my Bible. So if you're of the Christian faith, you're not alone even when you're by yourself, which is a weird thing to say, but there's a level there. So I just say all that because I want you to know you're not in it alone, and you can just let yourself be forgiven. And the nice thing about other people is they can say, it's okay, right? Like, the part of the reason you reached out to us, like, having someone who's there to tell you, like, it's okay, we can move on from this together, is just so powerful in moving past this. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, please find somebody to talk to. Find, like Ryan said, if it's a therapist, please find them. If it's a friend, find a friend. Find somebody. Learn to trust somebody enough to say what you're feeling so that they can speak to you and tell you, hey, it's okay. You can let this go. You can drop that burden. So anyway, that's all I had to go. Hopefully that's a little bit more encouraging for you. Hopefully maybe that reached into your point as well. We don't get to know, and that's kind of a scary thing on our end. So, but we're going to trust. We're going to hope that works for you, and maybe Ryan has a final thought.
Honestly, no. I think we've covered a lot of the bases. We did the best we could, and in the amount of time we had. And I think that well, I just hope that we were helpful. And thank you so much, Strawberry Paste, for posting this and being open with us and having the courage to be so. So thank you so much. And we're gonna close this down now so that Joe can get with his wife and babe. And hope you guys have an awesome rest of your evening / morning, because hey, some of you are even or it's
Time
like
zones.
3 o'clock in the morning. Um, all right. Yeah, like I think Nihilus. I don't know for sure, but anyways, thank you all so much for being here. We love you, and we hope you have a awesome rest of your week. Hope to see you next time on Don't Worry Wednesday. If you have any topics you want to post, go to don'tworrywednesday.com. Until then, enjoy.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Okay, peace. And